Bishop,
Hello there.
how are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Bishop. Thank you so much for the privilege to spend a little time with you and chop it up a little bit.
Not a problem. Glad to do it.
So Bishop, this has been the craziest season of my lifetime.
Um,
What about yours?
yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I don't think, from all that I can research, our country hasn't seen anything like it for 100 years, going back to about 1912. So this is unprecedented, and none of our infrastructures, organizations, government, medical facilities were built around a collective reasoning that would prepare us to even communicate effectively or have a strategy in place that was comprehensive enough to match the fierce ferocity of this disease and the impact of it on Americans, and particularly Black and brown people are unfortunately having the greatest impact in terms of not contractions, but in terms of deaths.
How have you and your family been doing in all of this?
When it all started, I called my family immediately and threatened them fiercely not to underestimate the impact of this. I pulled my daddy card out and told everybody to retreat into their domiciles until further notice, which they had done. And if it had gotten any worse, I was going to bring everybody home where we could shelter in place together. I'm a very protective person. We have done well. We have kept ourselves uplifted by Zooms and Skypes and FaceTime and everything possible. Some of them have come out to service when I'm speaking and stayed distancing, but still there. But it has been difficult emotionally. We're a close family, and so it's hard to have a Mother's Day and not be able to touch your mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What have you been doing in the quarantine that you weren't able to do pre-quarantine?
Well, my first response has been I was bombarded with media requests to speak, so I'm probably busier now than I was before the quarantine. It's been insanely busy. I literally just got off the phone with a medical facility trying to get more testing into more underserved areas, of which I've been able to do, collaborating backup plans for the impact. There's so many different levels of impact on this. There's the physical impact, which comes first, the loss of lives, the medical impact in terms of having the proper medical solutions, which are beyond my pay grade. I can't do anything about that. There's the economic impact in terms of food and small businesses, which I've been working through my Facebook and my YouTube page to bring the brightest minds up to talk to our people about how to withstand the vicissitudes of this economically. Then there's the psychological impact of it, which is devastating. What we're seeing happen psychologically, the trauma from this is going to last a long time. And because I have this Superman complex, I always feel like everybody's problem is mine. And so I put on my cape and my boots and ran out there and tried to make a little bit of difference. And other than that, I'm just trying to keep myself sane, balancing how much news I watch, how many problems, divorces I counsel, families in despair with trying to have some quality time myself so that I don't go down with the ship. So it's been a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I keep hearing this idea, and I wanted to talk to you about it because, I keep hearing it over and over again. This idea of I can't wait for things to get back to normal, and this expectation in my mind, this in many senses, this erroneous expectation that there is going to be this normal at all levels in every area and arena of our culture, as it pertains to even vocational spaces and people who have been laid off, who may be looking to go back to do the exact thing. In some instances, that might not be possible. And the idea of things getting back to normal, can you speak to that and maybe how we should be thinking or approaching this paradigm shift, as it were?
It is definitely a paradigm shift. You hit the precise word. I think that we'll get back to something better than this, but it won't be what we are used to. If you think about after 9/11, before 9/11, people would walk you to the gate to see you off when you flew a plane. That's no longer happening. You could carry lotions and things in your bag. That's no longer happening. You didn't have to practically go through a strip search to get on a plane. That's no longer happening. The world drastically changed as a consequence to 3,000 people dying. Now we're almost up to 100,000, and there's no way you can lose 100,000 American lives alone. And we're approaching it, and not be altered in some way forever. As it relates to jobs, companies everywhere are rethinking themselves because necessity is the mother of invention. And so people have had to be creative about restaurants, about grocery stores, about everything, hairdressers, everything. Everybody's rethinking how they do business. Let's back up a minute. Last year, I went to a Black Economics Summit, and the stats said that over the next 10 years, the unemployment rate would go from roughly about 7% amongst African Americans to 20% if we did not get them directed into STEM programs and STEAM programs and that sort of thing. That was alarming. This turned that into from a locomotive into a jet. It's now a jet because in just a matter of a couple of weeks, everybody had to go to technology in order to survive, communicate, connect, make deliveries, sell products, do merchandise. We have to rethink how we market ourselves, what's going to be left when this is over. Definitely delivery services, trucking companies are going to be left because they're more important now than ever before until we get automated trucking, which eventually will phase that out. But for right now, there are job opportunities there. People who are looking for jobs can also go to tdjfoundation.org, tdjfoundation.org, and there's a myriad of job opportunities that are in there on all levels. That's one of the places. John Hope Bryant there in Atlanta has a huge network for helping people to rethink and reevaluate themselves. So they could Google him and find out some information about the services that he provides. And there are people all over the country who are working feverishly on this behind the scenes, trying to come up with solutions for banking, for services, for small businesses. This, of course, the PPP and the stimulus care package was very helpful to those that got it. Many of them didn't get it because of various reasons. Some of the big companies gobbled it up, and then some of our businesses weren't set up for it. Some of our small businesses don't pay taxes, weren't eligible for it. There are a lot of reasons why the trickle down is not trickling down like we would really like for it to, but that was some help, and we're grateful to the degree that it was able to give us some sustainability. I think it's a time now that you have to back up and not look at what you used to do, but look at what your core gifts are, repackage yourself, remarket yourself, and get back out there in the areas where you're going to have the most success. And in some cases, we are qualified for jobs that don't exist in our region, and we may have to relocate into other regions where we are more marketable in those regions than we are in other places.
No, I love that. I love that. Because as I was thinking about this whole thing, you know, the thing that kept coming to mind for me is the whole idea of reinvention and what it means for people to reinvent themselves. And sometimes we can get locked in frameworks and in molds and modes and 100 miles an hour going north with one expectation, never to realize when everything around us shifts, we got to shift too. and you're the master of reinvention. I've reinvented myself a few times, but
You don't do bad.
you're the king of reinvention, and I think that's a big idea in my mind that you have talked about in an amazing book you got called Reposition Yourself. That I think while it's a few books ago for you, I think it's more relevant for this time than people could ever know, because everybody's got to be looking to pivot in one way or another. And those who won't pivot, unfortunately, in my mind, have the propensity to go down instead of forward.
That's a very frightening thought, but it's a very true thought. Reposition yourself was my attempt to warn people that tomorrow won't look like today, and that you have to market yourself for where you're going, not for where you've been. Culturally, we are so stuck on what happened to us that we don't think in terms nor put enough energy into what is going to happen. We are driving a car forward with our gaze in the rearview mirror. And we are constantly talking about who left us, who hurt us, who betrayed us, who denied us. And while all of that is true and all of that is legitimate and all of that is painful, if you're going to survive, you have to take your eyes off the rearview mirror and start looking forward. Looking forward means this. What's going to be left when the dust settles? What jobs have been created because of this? What has been lost because of this? You know, I was told a story that when people were trying to evacuate the East Coast because flooding was coming in, all the highways were turned into one-way streets and everybody was trying to get out of the city. And there were a group of guys who were not in cars running the opposite way toward the sea where the waves were tempestuous, and they had surfboards. So the analogy says that one man's storm is another man's opportunity.
I love it. I love it.
And the challenge to people today is to find your surfboard rather than to run from the storm. You know, most of the billionaires that we have in this country became billionaires through calamities, because calamities are the mother of invention and innovation and creativity. And we don't think that way. Right now, while we are frantic and upset, there are people buying up properties at lower prices because the interest rates are down, people are in crisis, homes are being lost, people are moving from ownership to renting, people are buying up blocks of property, there's the opportunity zones. People, smart people see disaster as opportunity. And they see from a business perspective. I'm not talking about ministry or sociological or emotional or anything like that. From a business perspective, they see it as an opportunity. How can I repackage myself in a way that solves this problem? Now, this is for business people. Business people must understand that the quickest way to build a business is to find a problem that your business solves.
Yes, sir.
So anytime your business solves a problem, your marketing bills go down to nothing, because everybody's looking for an answer. And the question that everybody needs to be thinking about is what problems can I solve? How am I an answer? And how do I bring that to the forefront of my brand, my social media, my resume? Everything about me has to say the same thing. So you might have to take those sexy pictures down. You may have to reinvent your messaging because everybody's looking at that, and this is a new day, and you need to market yourself in such a way that you solve a problem, whether it's PPE, whether it's delivery to elderly people, whether it's in-home care, whether it's some other thing that this COVID-19 has created an uncertainty, a need. It has to solve a problem. Any business that does not solve a problem becomes a luxury item, and luxury items in times of crisis do not sell.